What's up, guys? I just had an amazing podcast with my guy, the Real Jason Duncan, on the root of all success. And I gotta tell you one thing, guys, the energy, electric, we dive deep into a lot of different things about marketing, a lot of things that business owners would want to know from somebody who has been in the marketing space, who has had success in marketing for the past 15 years, and questions that you as a business owner would want to know. But guys, this is a great podcast. Take a look at it, take a listen. Jason's the man. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the root of all success with the Real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason has built multi-million-dollar businesses that have been featured in Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. His life's mission now is helping entrepreneurs live what he calls #the exit lifestyle. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of the root of all success, the Real Jason Duncan. The Real Jason Duncan.
Welcome back to another edition of the show. I am the Real Jason Duncan. I've got John Vagueiro on the show today. John is the CEO and the founder of a global digital marketing agency called Adapting Social. And he started the business at age 17. And we're going to talk a little bit about his 15-year experience of running a company, getting through those years of offering free services to getting to the place now where he has offices in New York and Miami, all over the world. And he's working with people like Bentley and Ferrari and Columbia University and real estate firms like Compass and Remax. He started out selling door to door in the winter, and it took him a long time to get to his first yes. And we're going to be talking about the power of persistence in the show today, how he was able to persist through all the times when most people would have given up. And you're going to hear him talk about that story. You're also going to hear him talk about how he was able to retire his mom through the success of his business, which I admire significantly. But he is a guy that knows marketing. He knows social. He knows how to advertise. And you're going to hear me ask him some pretty tough questions at the beginning about how, let's look under the curtain, behind the curtain rather, of what these art marketing agencies are doing and why so many of them suck, and how you can make sure that you choose the right one. So he has his own podcast, which we'll talk about at the top of the show, that you want to check out. He's in the top 5% of podcasts with his show, and he has a really big, good, engaged Instagram following, which we'll talk about as well. So please help me welcome John Vagueiro to the root of all success. Hey there, John. Welcome to the show.
Jason, thank you for having me, man. I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, it's good to see you, man. You had me on your show, the Breaking Barriers podcast, about a month or so ago. So I don't know if that's been released yet, but we can talk about podcasts because I know people who listen to podcasts want to hear other good podcasts. So let's start with telling people about your show and give everybody a plug about that.
Thanks, man. Yeah. So Breaking Barriers, we started it around 2016 going into 2017. And in a nutshell, the show is about what is it that's holding us all back and what barriers that we're holding on to do we need to break through, right? Whether that's mental health, whether that's, our own limiting beliefs, whether that's our circumstances that we grew up into. And we really focus on primarily entrepreneurship. We will sometimes bring on like celebrities or athletes and people like that too, to talk about their journeys and how they did it. But really, it's just, we want to learn, we want to dive deep and understand from great entrepreneurs, like what was the real stuff. And by the way, am I allowed to curse in this podcast, or is this?
Say whatever you'd like to say.
All right, because my podcast, I got explicit ratings after the first few weeks of being live. But anyway, so a lot of us, we talk about the sexy shit, right? And it's like entrepreneurship's gotten really cool and sexy, but nobody talks about the crazy stuff you had to get to where you are today. So in our podcast, that's what we try to do. We try to talk about the real shit that people had to go through to get to where they are, and what were the barriers, right? Was it financial? Was it their upbringing with their parents, or things that they had challenges with, just stuff like that. So in a nutshell, we go deep into that, and what was the lesson, right? Because I'm a big believer. I like Stoic philosophy, and I love any fool can learn from their own mistakes, but it takes a wise person to learn from somebody else. And so that's what we try to pull out. We try to pull out what were the mistakes, what were the barriers, how'd you get through them, and hopefully people take away some of those barriers and apply them to their own journeys.
So we'll put the link to Breaking Barriers in our show notes, so everybody go check that out. You can check it out on I assume all podcast players.
Yep.
All right, so go check out Breaking Barriers podcast with John Vagueiro. So John, you've experienced a lot of success since you started your business at age 17. You're in this marketing business, advertising business. And man, I get approached by marketing people every single day of my life, and it's driving me insane. I just got an email pre-show. I was looking at my email right before I came on the show today, and this person was like, "Hey, I heard you on," and it named somebody of the podcast, blah blah blah. Thought it was great. Looked up your website. Love what you're doing with real estate investing. And I'm like, okay, I do real estate investing, but that's not anywhere on my website. So he obviously didn't read my website. But then in the end, like, I have no idea what this guy's asking me to do. So if you suck that bad at asking me to work with you as an advertising agency or a company, like, I'm not even, no, absolutely no. So what is it why are so many advertising and marketing agencies suck so bad at reaching out where people like you have killed it?
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
Hey, I want to talk with you about one of my favorite tools as a salesperson and as an entrepreneur, and that tool is Dub. I want you to imagine for a minute getting an email from somebody, and instead of just being the plain old crappy text in an email, rather than just having a bunch of HTML where it's pictures and stuff, what if it was a video, and the video had a little GIF and it was playing right there in the email as soon as you opened it, and it had your name. Like, it said, "Hello, Jason, check this out." And then you clicked play and it played right there in your inbox in the window. And it was somebody trying to tell you how great you are, or how awesome they can help you, how good they can help you out. That is the power of video emails. I want you to try Dub out. I've been using it for years. I have closed countless millions of dollars in sales over the last 6 years or so using Dub, and you can do it too. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. That's DUBB. Therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. Dub will help you make an impact in your sales through video. It's going to help you with, they've even got a CRM built into it. You can build landing pages. You can do campaigns, even SMS campaigns. You can set up automations to manage workflows and maximize conversions. And like I said, they've got an existing software platform inside Dub to take your CRM to the next level. Try this out. Get a free special just by being a listener to the podcast. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. Get 2 weeks to try it for free and 50% off your first 2 months. That's therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. 40 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had your business in the yellow pages. You remember those things? And 30 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a door-to-door salesman. 20 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a website. And today, you're not in business unless you're doing social media content. Am I right? Social media content. Social media content in the form of like micro content, which is 30 to 60 second spots on Instagram Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts. That's the way business is done. As a matter of fact, that may be how you found out about this podcast or me as a business coach. This medium that we're using today to communicate what we do is vitally important. And just recording yourself isn't enough. You've got to do it right. And my friends over at Story do it right. And one of the problems with doing it wrong is that you sit around thinking, well, what the heck am I going to record? What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Like, I don't know what to talk about. Well, Story takes all of that away from you. Stop wasting time trying to come up with content, because Story will send you a video prompt on what to record. You can pick the categories you want to record in, whether it's real estate, entrepreneurship, finance, relationship, leadership, life insurance. It could be anything. Don't waste time on that. And by the way, if you're not confident in talking on video, or if the video editing portion takes up way too much of your time, Story will edit the videos to perform well on social media. They add the subtitles, the pop-ups, the zoom cuts. They remove all the filler words like and. They remove the awkward pauses. And then they take that video and post it for you. They write the captions, they add the relevant hashtags, and they post it on the platforms that you care about the most. It's exactly what you need to be in business today and to be successful at it. So if you want to learn how to do social media the way the influencers do, you need to go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. And that's story with 2 Y's. Why? Because they're awesome. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. That's STORYY for 10% off your first 3 months to try Story out. You're going to thank me later.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
Well, I think the problem is that people, I don't like using the words problem. I think the challenge that most companies have in general, right, are how can we scale and acquire more clients, right? And the thing that marketing agencies tend to do is they tend to lean on what they're native to, right? So email, like if you're a marketer and you're not, savvy to email, then you're not a marketer, right? But so they go, because pounding the phones back in the day, like when I started adapting social 15 years ago, I was door knocking, Jason. I was pounding the phones. I was doing all that stuff. Agencies are not doing that anymore, right? They just clutter inboxes like nuts because they email you on LinkedIn. They're cluttering your inbox, and they're hoping that they say one thing that's going to get you to go. So, to me, we've never liked that approach. One of the things when I first started, I was very blessed that when I started the company, instead of me, I was door knocking for sure. But once I started getting some clients through my door knocking and those different efforts, I was able to put some money towards, at the time, Google AdWords, right? Not Google Ads, they're new, improved, but Google AdWords, and it was so insanely cheap. So I was getting clients at that time that were on Google or on Yahoo or the major search engines, and I was paying a couple cents per lead. That would be paying me a couple $100, right? So the ROI was just ridiculous. And so I was able to build a reputation, and I'm a big believer in this still, is I want to give first before I receive, right? So like even with my Google AdWords back then, if I had a couple clients come in and they wanted a website design for them as an example, right? I would say to them, what did you pay for your last website? And if they said, oh, I paid $1,000 or I paid $500, because it was like 15 years ago, they go, I paid $400, $500, whatever it was. I would say, all right, I'll do it for $200, right? And they'd be like, what? Are you serious? And then I would over exceed their expectations on base what they thought they would receive on 200. So my point though is the word of mouth paired with my Google ads at that time frame just rocket fueled us. And that's how we really spread across the US. And then eventually now, serving our entrepreneurs in 20 countries. But I don't like the spammy thing though, so I think they're doing what they think is best. And that's why they're cluttering your inbox. But it's just not, it's not the right way to move, but they got to do what they got to do.
So I would like to talk about this because I think the listeners, I don't think we get a lot of the behind the curtain views from people like you that are successful in the advertising marketing space.
Yeah.
How this really works, because I can tell you the companies that I choose to work with in advertising and marketing are companies that reach out to me in a way that gets my attention. They offer value. They're not spammy, as you said, and they actually legitimately seem like they know what they're talking about. And I'm going to give you an example. I'm not going to name the company because obviously they might be direct competitors. I think I'd do something anyway. Well, so this dude reaches out to me through InMail on LinkedIn. He actually started following me on LinkedIn, started commenting on stuff occasionally, not like the over the top like some of these guys do. They just start liking everything you post.
Yeah.
And then he reached out and sent me a message and said something to the effect of, I could go back and read it, but like, hey, I'm not selling you anything. Just want you to know I'd be happy to do X, Y, and Z for you 100% free if you're interested. And he had been so consistent and reached out. I thought, okay, we'll call him Bill. His name is not Bill, but so Bill reached out to me and I thought, okay, you have my attention. You've done a good job, because I get so much crap and BS from people. Like, you've done a good job. You have my attention. So we booked a call and had a call with him. And he legitimately had that whole call. He was just asking me questions, kind of understanding where it was. He wasn't trying to pitch me anything. He goes, okay, here's what we do. Here's how we do it. We don't charge anything for X, Y, and Z. If that's what you want, we'll do it. If it works, then we can work. I was like, okay, you have my attention. Now, that whole process took probably 90 to 120 days. And I'm just now signing an agreement with him. I mean, my attorney just sent me the okay that the agreement's good to go. So for
Right.
me, that's the only people I'm going to work with. I'm going to work on, if you're trying to get it fast and close a deal,
Right.
stop talking to me. Why am I different? Am I different than most people that you're working with, or what are you experiencing on your side behind the curtain as the marketing guy?
So I would so first thing, so 120-day cycle. My man should have been doing better. That's a long cycle. So I don't know what Bill's doing over there, but no, but you know what though? Here's what I'll tell you. When I work with entrepreneurs like yourself that are very, very, they have a lot of business acumen, they have experience, they don't just like if we were to put it in terms of dating, right? They don't want to go right into the sack right away. Okay. They want to date first. They want to know who you know. They want to know where you've been, blah, blah, blah. And that's as they should, right? Due diligence is a beautiful thing when you're experienced and you're a seasoned entrepreneur. So I do see a lot of that in my space that people do want to understand who you are, where you've been, and what you can accomplish. I think the thing that we're seeing more so is people. It's not about the fluff, and we don't live in a world anymore where people care about like, oh, they don't just care about what you've done. What we're starting to see now is also social impact factors, right? So at Adapting Social, we work with clients ranging from a real estate agent, an individual real estate agent who's just trying to grow and build their GCI, right, gross commission income, all the way to Fortune 500 companies, right? And so the difference between that gap is in most cases we'll see people say, wow, the stuff you're putting out there on Adapting Social, because we have a full service media team and things like that, so we try to stay trendy with that stuff. Some people will see what we're doing and be like, damn, that looks sick, I want to do that, let's go, let's move. Sign one day, not even 24-hour cycle. Now we're working with bigger companies that are multi-million-dollar businesses. They're not trying to they're taking their time, right? They don't care. They want to know who you are and do the due diligence. But ultimately, at the end of the day, what we're seeing is it comes down to results, right? And that's the
Amen.
biggest thing. So with
That's
us, what we preach here at Adapting is it's about generating revenue and brand credibility in your marketplace, in your geographics. So when we show people and we get our actual customers, in front of, because I'm a big referral guy too. So like if I have, right now we're pitching a huge Fortune 500 company right now, and they're asking us for a few things. My sales team, my sales director over delivered. He goes, they're trained to think like entrepreneurs. So they go, hey, you didn't ask for this, but here's 10 phone numbers to random clients that are in similar verticals as you that we've been working with for a couple of years and have generated millions of dollars for them specifically through our channels and our marketing efforts. Here you go. If you want to speak to them, they know that you will potentially be emailing or calling them and they'll be expecting it, right? People don't do that, right? I run my business as if I'm the person on those phones, and that's what I would expect. And so that's just how we operate. So typically, that's what I would say is out there. That's what we're seeing.
So interesting that you mentioned you use the phrase "jump in the sack." This I actually now remember the first call that I had with Bill. I was on my motorcycle. It was a Zoom call, but I was on my
Yeah.
motorcycle heading to a meeting, and I do Zoom calls from my motorcycle. I've got a mount on my phone or my handlebars that aims at me, and of course in a helmet. And the guy Bill was like, "Are you on a motorcycle?" I'm like, "No, I just wearing the helmet in the office." but I was literally on it. He was like, "Well, this is odd. I've never done this before." But his positioning was, "Hey man, I just want this call to go so well that I can get a second date with you." That's
Yep.
what he said. And I thought, you know what? Also very clever. I thought, okay, I get it. And he wasn't
Forthcoming.
trying to over the top. And but I like what you said too. You said it's all about results. So let me ask you this might be a easy question for you. It might be a challenging question, but I think every person listening wants me to ask this question. Why then do advertising agencies and marketing agencies charge on the front end and not charge on the results if it's all about results?
Yeah, listen, at the end of the day, like I believe in that methodology when you are a small business. Like if Bill has 10 employees or 5 employees, or if anybody listening out there that's an agency owner has a handful, or they're a solopreneur at the moment, then fuck yeah, like you should be doing shit for free. Like you should be, right? But at my, like, with adapting social, right? Like in the agency stuff that we do, you're paying for that type of seasoned experience, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I know that you, based on our conversations in the past, you're religious. You want to be with somebody who's walked through the valley, not just talked about going through the valley, right? So if you're going on a tour guide through the valley and you have somebody who you don't know, never heard of, but they're willing to give you a free tour and you pay at the end, versus somebody who's been to the valley a million times, right? But you got to pay, right? Who are you going to go with, right? And typically I use that reference mainly in the jungle, and I say, you're going to go with a tour guide from the jungle who is free, or you're going to go through somebody who has been through that jungle every day for the past 15, 20 years, and you're not going to get bit, attacked, this, that, because they know the way. Whereas on the other side, yeah, it's free, but, and this is the thing that I don't like about that model, is you're still spending ad spend, right? So even at the end of the day, if you're like, hey, everything's free, I need 5 Gs a month in ad spend, and boom, that just tanks, and you have a couple months in, money's being spent no matter what, right? So
Yeah.
the point though is that's my ideology on it. But when I was early phase, I was that guy. Like, listen, I'll do it, whatever. There were cases where I did it for free for a couple months, not asking for anything, and then just once I got them some revenue in and they trusted me, then we'll go. But with us at Adapting Social, we have office space in the Freedom Tower in New York City, iconic building, right? We have office space in Miami, in London, in New Jersey. Now, we live in a remote world. Right now, like I said to you, I just moved into my new home. I'm working remote today. But why does that matter? That matters because we have locations and people in the best spots across the world when it comes to marketing and building brands. And so that's the experience, that you're paying for. Some of the biggest people, right? Like, I don't know if you've ever heard of Droga, right? But Droga is they're one of the biggest, most respected marketing agencies in the world, right? And in order to take a meeting with them, just to talk about what you want to do, not like literally not even get a proposal, right? Just to talk to them. I'm pretty sure it's high six figures to sit at a table with these guys, right? But you're paying for that experience. So with us, we know what we do. We're confident in it. We've been doing it for 15 years now. So that's our ideology. So it's not so much, hey, let's get it on the back end. We've been in positions too where I have friends who own agencies that operate on that model. It's a model, in my opinion, right? Everybody does their own thing, but it's a model of desperation. I'm willing to say, hey, I'll do shit for you for free, no contracts and whatever else. I've had people build marketing like that for people and businesses, and then they decided they got the whole entire strategy. They're doing it. They're going to get paid on the back end, and then they just left. And they just said, "Oh no, I'm gonna, this isn't working. We don't want it." But that my friend knew definitively they were getting leads, but didn't get compensated for it because they just walked away, and it was that easy to walk away. So
Yeah.
it also gives you some skin in the game too, for it. But yeah, so I don't know. That's my ideology of it, and I think that it's a model. It's a way to get in front of people who are not looking to spend. And to get them to spend, right? So it's a whole market. People will do it, and we've turned on a lot of clients, over the years because they've tried to get the pay per results model, but just not our thing.
Well, it's not something that I think everybody has to do. I think the question that I have, and I think most reasonable business owners think the same thing. The question we have is that, hey, can we just work on a fair exchange model? So here's what that means. Maybe you charge me up front. That's fine. It's not where the charge happens. It's the fact that results are attached to that.
Yeah.
So on a fair exchange model, you charge me $100,000 to do $100,000 of work, and the value that I get is more than $100,000. That's ultimately how that should work. But if you charge me $100,000 and I get either 0 or less than 100, anywhere less than 100, that's not a fair exchange. So I think we as the business owners are just looking for somebody in the marketing world to say, hey man, this is going to be at least a fair exchange in terms of you're going to get at least what you're paying for in terms of revenue back, if not more. And if I don't deliver it, we'll make it right. That's really, I think, what most people are asking, because your example of the agencies, that don't charge up front and they do it on the back, and then somebody steals all the intellectual property and the way they're doing it and goes and does it on their own. That's a criminal exchange. And the agency started the criminal exchange. They were the one that initiated it. It's like, hey, I'll do it for free. You don't have to pay me.
Yeah, who cares?
And they allowed the person to go steal it Well, they've initiated a criminal exchange, so they're just as bad off as the person who stole it. None of us
True.
want that. And if you want that, you're a criminal. Like none of us are
Yep.
interested in that. I think we as business owners, John, looking at people in the marketing agencies and advertising agencies like you guys, we admire the ones who rose to the top like you've done. And I mean,
Yeah.
having office spaces where you have it, you're no chump if you've been able to accomplish that. We just say, hey, if we want to work with you, this got to be fair, man. It's got to be a fair exchange. If I pay 100 G's, I need at least $100,000 in revenue just to justify the
Right.
fact that we work together. I think that's reasonable. I mean, you would agree, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what though? I want to put it, so you mentioned real estate earlier. Do you have like a real estate portfolio? Like, are you in the real estate game? Because I'm going to give you an example if you are,
A
so it
little
makes
bit,
sense.
yeah, yeah. I'm in there a little.
All right, yeah, I am as well. And I think one of the things that I think we both can understand and relate to is how when you're building something, right, and you're utilizing contractors, right, there's always some, like, let's just use it as a scope of work similar to marketing, right? If there's a scope of work similar to marketing and you say, hey, I want you to build an addition on Jason's house, right? Great, cool. All right, what are you looking for? All right, I want two doors, want this, whatever. We give them the whole scope, okay? Almost, I would say eight, maybe, and that might be ambitious, but I'm gonna say 8 out of 10 times, right? Something goes wrong. Oh shit, we hit a water main, or oh crap, there's a pipe here, we didn't see the pipe, or hey, this is a load bearing wall, can't even do this in this wall now, right? Oh, okay, no problem. But now it's gonna cost more money, or it's gonna be this, it's gonna cost more time, it's gonna be whatever. What we typically see in most service-based businesses is that the fair trade, right, is typically never really there. But in the marketing segment, because it's so tied to growth of revenue and growth of brand, that people look at it differently, right? And that's okay. But I think the one thing that if we look at more industries and more segments like that, it's almost typically always similar like that, where you put some dollars out and you maybe didn't get exactly what you're supposed to be getting, or it winds up costing more money than you expected. But the one thing I want for the business owners listening, right, is that at the end of the day, when you look at the biggest brands in the world, right, and some of them we've been so blessed to work with, and the one thing I've gotten from a lot of these people who have become mentors of mine that are these huge Fortune 500 people are, it's an investment to build your brand and to be in front of people constantly. And that investment doesn't always yield a very calculated and data driven income, right? Or metric for you, right? But if you look at McDonald's, right? If you ask anybody in the world, like, when you think of a hamburger that you can get on any place in the planet, typically McDonald's pops up in people's minds. Do they have the best burgers? Absolutely not, right?
Nope.
Do they have the best quality food? Absolutely not, right? But what do they have? The best branding and the best marketing. And they're just everywhere. So they're
Yeah.
always just in your face. So it's an investment that most people that I want, like, if you take away anything from me today about marketing and building a brand, the one thing I want to say is that in the 15 years that I've been doing this, the people who play scared money, and again, that typical cliche saying that you don't make money, but it really comes down to one thing. If you're not out there in front of people, you're not going to grow. You're not going to build your brand. And I see people with crappy products, crappy services that are constantly out there scale a business, right? And eventually it catches up to people, right? But I've still seen it happen. And so it's an investment. So understand your runway, right? Your cash runway and what your willingness is. And then that's what you should be doing when you're working with marketing agencies. Hey, here's my cash runway. Here's what I'm going to give this. And here's my expectations. But as a business, you should always have a brand and a presence out there marketing it, right? Not expect, again, it's just awareness in your marketplace, constantly going.
So you've been extremely successful in the marketing world. I mean, you've done this now, as you said, for 15 years. You've been working with Bentley, Ferrari, Columbia University, Compass, Remax. You've got offices in Miami and New York. You're killing it. Congrats. You've done really
Thank
great.
you.
So if you had to distill all that success down to one key, like if you said, this is the one thing, I know there are many, but like, what's the one main thing you said, this unlocks success for me?
Just movement. Honestly, for me, it's movement. Like, I never let the pursuit of perfection stop me from making progress. I didn't go to college. I started this out of high school, right? So, like, and while I was in high school, I was in remedial classes, right? So I had a teacher's aide in the room with me, and I had all this other stuff. So my school system, since I've been in second grade, said to me, my parents, that I had learning disabilities. So growing up, like, my advantage there was that I just didn't have the same level of like, oh, I didn't get an A plus. Like, we were celebrating if I got a C plus on my fridge, right? So the thing is at the end of the day, for me, I'm willing to bump into the guardrails. I'm hungry, but I've always, and I got this quote from Steve Jobs, but he said, "Stay hungry, stay foolish." And to me, that's movement though, right? I'm hungry, I'm moving, and I'm not going to be too smart enough to the point where I'm like too logical and saying, well, you know what, John, this isn't going to work, right? This podcast, I'm in my house right now, my new home. They literally just set up the Wi-Fi like minutes ago, right? Before we started. And all my laptop chargers and stuff are either at my office or at my house. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, damn, does Riverside have an app? I'm like running around here trying to get this. But like, if I was super logical, what I would have done was I would have got on my phone, I would have emailed my team and said, hey, let Jason know we got to reschedule this, right? But that's not how I roll. I move, man. I want to move. I don't want to stay still, and I want to move, right? So, like, to me, I would say it's movement, and it's those two things: being hungry enough and being foolish enough, and that combined ideology. Now, 15 years later, I have a little bit more business acumen and wisdom than I had when I first started, and so I'm more calculated. But
Yeah.
I think the best thing I ever heard was ready, fire, aim. That's how I operate. Not ready, aim, fire, right? I'm not going to wait and miss an opportunity for my shot. I'm going to fire shots left and right. And if I have to recalibrate and reload, I'm going to do that. I'm fine with that. But ready, fire, aim is how I live my life.
So how do you define success? What's John Vagueiro's definition of success?
Has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with my family. It has everything to do with spending quality time with them. So I retired my mom, and for me, she is like everything to me, but she is somebody that means the world to me. I wouldn't be who I am without her, but I retired my mom. That to me is success. Boom. Like my mom took care of me. She had five, again, I'm the oldest of five siblings. Like that's success to me. My wife, we just bought, for me, I got lucky. I married a conservative woman who doesn't care about materialism things. But again, my wife, her whole thing, and this is where my mindset has shifted, is if I can take care of my family, I can enjoy what I do. I can be present. I have a child now, so my son who's 7 months old, I can be there with him. I can be a great role model for him. And he says, damn, my dad's a good guy. He's there for people. If somebody fell down on the street, he's going to help them up. If somebody needs help there, he's going to go help them. It's just service, man. To me, success is service and being able to do it on your own terms. On my podcast, I like to ask people at the end, which because I asked you that question of what would your tombstone say? To me, like it's like I'm a servant to my family and friends, but I do it on my terms, right? Meaning like I want to enjoy what I'm doing in the process, but I want to just be a big pair of hands and serve, man. I just want to serve everybody I can.
Well, I love that. So based on that definition, do you consider yourself to be a successful person?
I would say, to me, success is not something that it's not given, and it's not a trophy we put up on a shelf, in my opinion. It's an endless mountaintop, right? We're climbing Mount Everest, and the thing is, every time we get to the top, there's another level unlocked. So
Yeah.
I would say right now, I have work to do, man. I want to spend more time with my parents. I want to spend more time with my wife, my son. I want to be a better husband, So I would not say so. For me right now, I would say I'm on that road. I'm climbing. I don't think I have the trophy. I don't think I ever will have the trophy. But I think that I'm just doing my best to move forward in those directions.
Well, I appreciate the humility. I can sense that in you, but I think from the outside looking in, you're killing it, man. You're doing great, successful from the outside looking in, and even based on your definition, service on your own terms. I think you've developed and built a life around that. I mean, not college educated, started a business in high school. You've got offices in these different locations, working with these huge companies. Congrats, man. You've done really well. So I want to ask you another question. If you had to speak directly to every entrepreneur listening to this episode, and you're talking one-on-one, you say, hey man, this is the one piece of advice that John Vagueiro has for you. What would that one piece of advice be for entrepreneurs?
Don't. This is the piece of advice that one of my mentors gave to me, and it's going to be elongated. So just be ready. It's going to be over 2 minutes. We're breaking some rules here. No, I'm just, I'm just kidding. But it's don't ever, 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 continuum evers give up. When I first heard that, I think I was 18 at the time, and the guy who gave me that piece of advice was a mogul in the telecommunications space. Um, Dude was a multi-billionaire, and he told me this. And when he said it to me, Jason, he said it, but he said the evers for so long. I'm not even kidding. He kept going, and eventually I'm like, all right, come on. I'm 18. I'm a young kid. I got no attention span. I'm like, come on. And he said, don't ever give up. And this is the thing. What I took from it when he first said it to what I think about that now, right, is when you give up, there's a lot of things that happen. Okay. One, you start to lose faith in yourself, right? And no matter what people say, the only thing that matters in this world is what happens between your 2 ears. And it's your perspective, and it's what you think about yourself, what you believe to be true, and then what your limiting beliefs are. And what I've learned, because I've had some failures, right? But failure to me is a fucking blessing. I literally, like, once my son is old enough and I have more kids, I want like 5 kids, man. I want a big family, right? So for me, at the table, the question every day at dinner, right? Because we're gonna have mandatory dinners every day, right? Besides the weekends. But the questions I'm gonna ask is, what did you fail at today? What did you fail at, right? Because failing to me is I tried something, oh shit, but I'm gonna get back on the horse though, right? Like failing is not a bad thing, right? But giving up to me is what most people think is failure. Giving up is it's the bottom of a shoe to me in terms of failure, right? So to me, I identified the fact that giving up, like for again, perfect example. When I first started, I was not the best marketer. I was not the best web designer. I was not the best, all these different things I was trying to do myself. But guess what happened over time with me not giving up? Every year I got better. Every year I knew more people. Every year more people knew what I was doing. Eventually, if you don't give up and you stay in your lane, if you love it, of course, something starts to happen and people begin to know who you are. And it's just literal math. You're only going to keep getting better at what you're doing. And that to me is a big part of like why I'm here today. I just didn't give up, man. And everybody around me, I remember the first time I went to my accountant and my parents' accountant at the time, and I showed him my first year statement. And he goes, John, I think this is more of a hobby, my man. This is not really a business. Like you can't like not go get a job after high school here. Like you should really like consider like just doing this for fun, like and like focusing on an actual career. And I could have took that. Most people would take that and be like, this guy went to college, he's educated, he runs a big tax firm, whatever. But I didn't give up. And I think that's the biggest thing. And it sounds cliche. And with the internet, there's so many things that exist out there that make people think that things are, too small. But that's what it is, man. Don't ever give up on something that you feel like you could be good in. Because when you look at any of these people, Cristiano Ronaldo or Tom Brady, some of the highest paid athletes in the world, like what were they doing when they're in Pee Wee football, playing every day, practicing? But they never gave up, right? If people, and that's the thing I would get curious about, even that example, if somebody was in school, Tom Brady, but played football the same exact, and they were a decent quarterback, right? But they played as long as Tom Brady's played, how good would they be in a 20-year career? They probably would have been really great eventually, right? If they were a quarterback that was just decent. My point is don't give up. That would be my biggest thing. And I know it sounds cliche, but that's been for me what I focus on the most is that I could have given up a bunch of times. And a lot of people do give up because it's hard.
Yeah. Well, and the power of persistence is underrated. I think a persistent person will outperform a person who's better educated, more well-funded, better connected. A persistent person will outperform all those people. So I love that as your piece of advice. And it reminds me of what Napoleon Hill said. He said, with every failure, there is the seed of the equivalent advantage or benefit. So every time you fail, a seed of something equivalent or greater has been planted. And if you just wait, like if, an oak tree, and when that seed is planted, it will be an oak tree. It might take 20, 30, 50, 100 years before you see what it really looks like, but it's coming. So when you screw up, when you fail, when you go When you skin your knee, you fall off the bike, you have to get back up and keep riding because you just learned something. As a matter of fact, my newsletter that I just emailed out to my people this morning was on the power of persistence, and I told a little bit of that story. And
Yeah.
Thomas Edison, of course, the greatest example of the never give up attitude. 10,000
Mm.
attempts at creating a light bulb, and he said, "I learned 9,999 ways not to create a light bulb, and now I've got a light bulb." So if he'd given up at light bulb number 8 or number 50 or number 5,000, none of us would have blamed him. Like, yeah, man, it didn't work. It's all right. You worked hard. Congratulations. But now he pushed through, and we have electric light with phonograph. We had all these amazing inventions because this guy never gave up. So, John,
Dude,
I love that.
that's a fire example. I love that example. I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, you're welcome to
Can,
use it.
I want to give one more piece of advice if I could.
Yeah.
And this came up for me today, but it was around um, allowing other people's limiting beliefs that they impose and they feel in themselves and their own insecurities on you, and understanding the difference, right? Because listen, most people, if you're untrained and you don't understand it, again, like not everybody out there has heavy personal development like you do or like I do. So they take advice very seriously. And the one thing is, I'll put it into layman's terms, don't go to the gym and hire a fat trainer. You would never do that, right? Don't go to a financial advisor and hire somebody who's living paycheck to paycheck, right? Don't get advice from somebody that in such an important thing, like if it's about your career trajectory, if it's about your business trajectory, go talk to somebody who you want to be like, who you aspire to be like. Don't get advice from people. Like I was somebody who did this. I would go and ask my friends, their parents and shit, and like my family, but my family wasn't doing what I wanted to do. But I was asking them that advice, and too many times we get that type of advice from the wrong people. We're going to the fat trainer to ask how we can lose those pounds, and
That's
they ain't
right.
gonna help you. They can't do it themselves. Why are you asking them, right? So I just want to make sure you guys think about that, and it's important that you reach out to people. There's a lot of my mentors, Jason, I reached out to, right? Like when I got Grant Cardone on my podcast, right? Like we emailed him, right? And I had my team email him, whatever else, probably close to, I think like over 135 times we counted, right? That we emailed him and his assistant, right? Boom, boom, whatever. And he finally reached back out and was like, dude, I'm only doing this because of how insanely persistent. You know, he's like, your team's calling my offices. They're annoying the shit out of my assistant. They're doing this, they're doing that. He's like, you know what? Let's just do it, man. Let's just do it. And a lot of these people that like, you know, there's a multi-billion-dollar company out here in Jersey, you know, in a tri-state where I live. And I was like, you know, screw it. I'm going to email the CEO, the founder, and just, you know, see if I can get on his calendar and he can mentor me. Shot out an email. He emailed me back in 5 minutes flat. No joke, 5 minutes flat. And this guy's a multi-billionaire. And he's like, hey, yeah, sure. Do you want to do tomorrow? And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do tomorrow. I'm coming. So don't be scared, guys, to reach out and to ask advice from people you want to be like. Even if they're not in your circle yet, or if you don't know those people, Google them, research them, find who is the people, and then go find them. And then reach out and just be relentless, you know, and eventually somebody will say yes. And eventually, even if you have somebody in your family, friends network that you know somebody who knows somebody whose uncle's goldfish is this person, you know, like there's got to be somebody in your network that knows a little bit more than the people you're probably going to ask for advice or feel comfortable enough to be like, hey, should I do this? Right? Like, don't put your big goals in somebody else's hands. And don't allow people's limiting beliefs on what they can do in the world be imposed on you. Because sometimes, and most often, that's what they do. And people don't go after big, hairy, audacious goals because somebody else told them, yo,
Yeah,
Jason, that's crazy. You can't start that multi-million-dollar company. You're a teacher. You can't do this. What do you think
that's
you
right.
are? You know, but ask the right people.
Well, you know what? What's funny is that if you go back to the first big question I asked you about success, I said, "What's your one key?" And you said movement, and then you went on to talk about that. And then I asked you, "What's your piece of advice?" You said persistence. That is the same thing. Persistence and movement. That's what that is. It is
Right.
moving in the same direction you want to go. And I have a similar but interesting, I think, quasi interesting story about my podcast guest I've been trying to get on for a year. I'm not going
Right.
to name him because I don't want to screw things up, but he is a huge dude who started one of the biggest companies in the world that everybody listening to this show knows.
Yep.
He wrote an amazing book about the start of his company and how he did it. And so I started reaching out to him like a year ago, and I set it up on like automatic emails every 30 days or
Boom, boom.
something. Boom, 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 boom. And he at first responded, said, yeah, we'd like to get on his assistant. Yeah, we got on the show. And then he got it scheduled. And I thought, holy crap, I got this dude on my show. And then he canceled. He's like, something happened. I'm like, oh no. So I kept reaching out. And he kept saying, no, sorry, no, 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 no. Well, just last week, I think it was last week, he responded and said, I really appreciate your persistence, going to what John Vagueiro just told us about. I really appreciate your persistence and I admire it. I'm not doing any shows right now. I will start doing them in the fall. And to reward your persistence, you'll be the first person I call. So, dude, he's coming on my
Bam.
show this fall, man. Just out of
Let's
persistence, the
go.
power of persistence, man. Well, congratulations, John, on all your success. I'm really glad that we know each other. How can people reach out to you? What's the best way to connect with John Vagueiro?
The best way for me would be probably via Instagram, at the Johnny, Johny, it's one N. And then anything on Adapting Social, all the social channels, go to our website, if you have any questions, if you're trying to build your business, build your revenue, scale your company, we can help you. The one thing, again, because I always want to just serve, I don't want to drop one more golden nugget here on what you just said. If you're in the service-based business and you need to get a client, one piece of advice I'd give you that helped me tremendously, speaking about persistence, is there was one massive client that I've been trying to close, I would say probably for 7 years. Not 1 year, not 6 months, not 2 months, 7 years, right? And just recently I heard something and I was like, let me try this. So the dude gets blown up, his emails, whatever, like we're blowing this guy up all the time or whatever. And he, at this point, like we have like even like a banter going back and forth where he's like, yeah, listen, we're still good, whatever. So I was like, I'm going to go above and beyond because that's what we do here, right? And it took me 7 years to do this, and I'm pissed it took me 7 years. But I, through my team's research, saw that he has kids, right? And he's a big family guy, right? So I went ahead and I bought season passes for him and I think his 4 kids to go to Six Flags, which I don't know if you guys have a Six Flags by you, but it's like a small Disney. So Six Flags, right? I bought him season passes for all the kids, right? And at the beginning of the season, right? And I sent him a personalized letter with it telling him, hey, listen, I know I've been on your radar. I know my team's been busting your chops and been going back and whatever. But family's the most important thing, and one of the things that I respect about you as a successful entrepreneur and one that I inspire to be like is that you have your family at the forefront of everything that you're doing. And so whether or not we do business together, just one entrepreneur to another, I hope you enjoy this. Bam. I was in his office, I think the next week, right? And he fired his other marketing company, hired us literally pretty much on the spot. And it's been like probably the best thing I've ever done to that point with our sales team and like us being more personalized. But my point though is we're talking about persistence. I like calculated and thoughtful persistence though, because the one thing that sometimes we'll see is every time, and this is the thing with my team, it's part of our IP for marketing, but when we do those automated emails or if my team's reaching out, they will never. So for 7 years, this guy got emails and phone calls. Not one email has ever been the same. And that's what he told me he respected. So it's not an automated canned, response email that's dripping. This was every single one is now set up in a different way and dripping in different ways and different whatevers. And anyway, I want to drop that nugget for anybody out there in the service-based industry because a lot of times we just try to throw out the value that we can provide as a marketer or as whatever, but we don't think about them and what we can just do for them and not ask anything in return. And that helped me. So hopefully that can help somebody out there, get ahead and get in front of that big client you want to get.
John Vagueiro, CEO and founder of Adapting Social. Go check him out on Instagram at Adapting Social, or you're going to check out his personal Instagram at VJohnny, and that's Johnny with one N, VJohnny on Instagram. John, thanks for being a part of the show today. It's an honor to know you. Thanks for being here. Congrats on all your success, and a big shout out to your mom, whom you retired through your success. So congratulations, man.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you. Thank you for having me on the show.
Well, there you have it. Another very successful entrepreneur and his journey to success. It's really, I think probably the thing I admire the most is what he did for his mom. I mean, certainly there's a lot of cool stuff that he's done, but I know that one of my goals as I continue to build my life as an entrepreneur, build my wealth, is that there are certain financial goals for my family, my parents, my mother-in-law, et cetera, that I want to accomplish. And so to see somebody as young as him to have been able to accomplish that so early, it's really an admirable thing. So pay attention to what he said about movement being his one key to success, which really is persistence. And the power of persistence is something that you cannot underestimate. So maybe you're at a place now where you're thinking about giving up. Maybe times are tough. Maybe you went through a partnership divorce. Maybe you've had a vendor who screwed you on something. Maybe you had a customer back out of a big project. But don't give up. Whatever you do, don't give up, because you can't get to your goal if you give up. Just like I said to John in the show, what if Thomas Edison had given up at the 5,000th try of creating the electric light bulb? I don't think anybody would have blamed him, but we wouldn't have the electric light bulb the way that we have it now. We wouldn't experience that life that he was able to introduce us to through the electric light bulb. So don't give up. You're doing something amazing for this world. Don't give up. I want to make sure that you check out my book, Exit Without Exiting. You can pick this up at therealjasonduncan.com/book, therealjasonduncan.com/book. Check this out. This is going to tell you the stories of 3 different entrepreneurs and about how they persisted through their startup phase, growth phase, and then how they eventually exited. 3 different exits, 3 different styles, and 3 different outcomes. And there's one that I think you're really going to like. It's Exit Without Exiting. You can pick this up at therealjasonduncan.com/book. Go check it out. And if you've read it, please go and leave me a review on Amazon, 5-star review about the book if you think it deserves it, so that more people will see that book. So thank you for listening to the show today. Please tune in again next time when I talk with another successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, as always, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Feeling burnout from running your business? Uncertain if you're nearing burnout? Take our free 10-question business burnout test at businessburnouttest.com to discover where you stand. With just 10 quick questions, you'll learn how to immediately begin making changes to regain freedom and success. Cut your daily operations time in half. Improve your quality of life and prepare your business for your future exit without losing revenue or profit. Visit businessburnouttest.com now and take the test. Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.